What could make football fans joke that Euro 2028 belongs in America instead? Has the country many once doubted quietly become the world's ultimate tournament stage? Sometimes one unforgettable experience is enough to challenge years of assumptions. Today, we're exploring why so many supporters left America with a question they never expected to ask. What if the impossible suddenly makes perfect sense? America stole the tournament. Something almost unthinkable began circulating among European football supporters after the 2026 World Cup. Perhaps Britain and Ireland should keep the Euro 2028 paperwork, but America should keep the actual tournament. It sounds like the kind of suggestion made after one oversized beer and a delayed train home, yet the idea reveals a much deeper change in how European visitors now see the United States. The country they encountered looked nothing like the gloomy portrait they had been handed before arriving.
They told me the World Cup in America is going to be crazy, but a Byron ship in a stadium? Now that's wild. What is going on?
Things in an American World Cup stadium that just make sense. A massive area to walk outside the venue so there's no overcrowding. Escalators to get up to your seat because walking is overrated.
For months, much of the coverage surrounding America had focused on crime, political arguments, social division, and everything supposedly waiting to go wrong. Judging from those reports, visitors might have expected every airport arrival hall to resemble the opening scene of a disaster movie. Instead, they found packed stadiums operating with remarkable confidence, volunteers giving clear directions, air-conditioned public spaces, enormous food choices, and crowds from different countries celebrating side by side without the atmosphere collapsing into chaos. That contrast matters because European football supporters already know what major tournaments can demand from a host. In London, a packed event can place enormous pressure on the underground, especially when several large fixtures finish close together. Paris has one of Europe's strongest transit systems, yet major events around the Stade de France can still produce crowded platforms and long security lines. Rome offers unforgettable history, although moving tens of thousands of visitors through older streets and limited transport connections can feel like asking an ancient city to suddenly perform airport logistics. America approached the same challenge with a very American answer: build more space, add more signs, create more lanes, and place a screen somewhere large enough to be seen from another county. Stadium districts in cities such as Dallas, Atlanta, and Los Angeles often feel designed for crowds that travel with luggage, children, flags, coolers, and enough emotional baggage to survive a penalty shootout. The scale can appear excessive until 80,000 people need food, restrooms, security checks, and a clear route back outside at the same time. The cultural surprise extended beyond the stadium gates. European visitors discovered that American enthusiasm does not always arrive quietly, but it often arrives generously. Strangers offered directions, restaurant staff refilled drinks before the glass had finished considering emptiness, and ordinary conversations began with the ease of people waiting together at a backyard barbecue. In Britain, friendly interaction can be wrapped in dry humor and several layers of emotional packaging. In America, someone may hear an accent, ask where you're from, and recommend 3 restaurants before the traffic light changes. That openness gradually changed the mood of the trip. What began as a football visit became an introduction to a country that felt larger, warmer, and more welcoming than expected. The roads were wider, the portions looked prepared for a family reunion, and the supermarket seemed capable of supplying a small nation through winter. Even inconvenience occasionally became entertainment because everything carried the unmistakable confidence of a culture that rarely believes adequate is an inspiring final measurement. This is why the playful demand to hand Euro 2028 to America feels so powerful. It is not an official proposal, and Europe has no intention of exporting its championship across the Atlantic. It is an exaggerated compliment from supporters who arrived expecting dysfunction and left wondering why daily life had felt so comfortable. After weeks of full stadiums, friendly encounters, and effortless convenience, returning home no longer felt like the obvious reward at the end of the journey. America did not need to claim Europe's tournament. It had already won the argument that mattered. America has backups. Europe builds a tournament around its finest stadiums. America could misplace 3 of them and still have enough left to host the quarterfinals before dinner. That difference sounds like an exaggeration until the map appears, because the United States does not merely possess several large arenas, it has an entire second team of enormous venues waiting behind the first one. This is where the conversation about Euro 2028 becomes more than playful admiration. Wembley holds around 90,000 spectators and remains one of the world's great football stages, while Tottenham Hotspur Stadium offers roughly 62,000 seats with modern facilities that many American visitors would happily praise. Yet Britain and Ireland must carefully assemble a tournament from a limited group of suitable grounds spread across several cities. In the United States, a venue with 65,000 seats can feel less like the crown jewel and more like the stadium that receives a polite phone call after the first choices have checked their calendars. The 2026 World Cup selected 11 American stadiums, several of which normally host NFL teams and regularly accommodate crowds above 70,000. MetLife Stadium in New Jersey holds more than 82,000 people. AT&T Stadium near Dallas can seat around 80,000 in its standard configuration. SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and NRG Stadium in Houston all operate on a scale that would make them national landmarks in many countries. America somehow treats them as coworkers. That depth changes the psychology of hosting. When a European city prepares one major stadium, the entire event leans heavily on that building. When the United States prepares a tournament, several cities can offer venues large enough for semifinals while arguing over which giant video board is the least enormous. It resembles an NFL team discovering that every substitute quarterback is 6'4" and owns a private training facility. Germany demonstrated Europe's strength during Euro 2024 with a superb network of football cities. Yet even there, only a few venues approach the largest American capacities. Berlin's Olympiastadion holds roughly 71,000 spectators, while Munich's major arena seats around 66,000 for international matches. Those are impressive numbers by any reasonable standard. America simply stopped using reasonable standards sometime around the invention of the drive-through bank. The attraction is not sized for its own sake. A deeper pool of major venues gives organizers flexibility when schedules change, weather creates complications, or one city faces transportation pressure. It allows matches to be distributed without making every host feel as though the whole tournament has been balanced on one railway platform. Supporters sense that confidence immediately because the infrastructure does not look temporarily borrowed for football. It looks as though football has entered a country already accustomed to moving the population of a medium-sized town through one set of gates. That may explain why the idea of America hosting another European-style tournament becomes strangely addictive. The United States offers something rare in global sports: excess capacity that feels reassuring rather than wasteful. There is always another stadium, another airport, another hotel district, and probably another parking lot large enough to have its own weather system. British supporters are not truly surrendering Euro 2028, of course. Their excitement points toward a simpler truth. Once fans witness a host nation with this many world-class options, returning to a tournament built around scarcity can feel like leaving a Texas barbecue and being handed one carefully measured sandwich. America makes waiting fun. The most dangerous idea Britain brought home from America was not a bigger stadium or a wider parking lot. It was the realization that a major match does not need to begin when the referee checks his watch. In the United States, game day can stretch across an entire afternoon, gathering energy slowly until kickoff feels like the final course of a meal that started beside a pickup truck. That is where American sports culture becomes strangely addictive. European football has its own beautiful rituals, especially the walk from the station, the crowded pub, and the first song rising several streets away from the ground. London, Liverpool, Glasgow, and Dortmund understand how anticipation can take over a neighborhood. Yet much of that experience depends on the city already surrounding the stadium. America faced a different landscape, with venues often sitting beside highways and enormous fields of asphalt, then responded in the most American way possible. It gave the parking lot a personality. Tailgating turned an empty piece of concrete into a temporary town square. Folding chairs became living rooms, coolers became community refrigerators, and the family grill suddenly carried more responsibility than some professional kitchens. People arrived hours early with burgers, flags, portable speakers, and enough snacks to survive a weather emergency in Wisconsin. Nobody seemed embarrassed about making a celebration out of waiting, because American culture has never believed anticipation should sit quietly in the corner. This matters more than it first appears. A tournament can have excellent football and still feel exhausting when supporters spend every spare minute standing in lines, searching for food, or wondering where everyone is supposed to gather. The United States has learned from decades of NFL and college football that the crowd needs somewhere to belong before the gates open. During a typical NFL season, regular season attendance has averaged close to 70,000 spectators per game in recent years, which means American venues repeatedly manage populations larger than many European towns. That scale has encouraged an entire culture of pregame hospitality, rather than treating early arrivals as a problem to be stored behind barriers. Compare that with central London, where space around major venues is precious, and a group of 20 supporters can make a pavement feel fully booked. Around stadiums in cities such as Paris or Milan, the social energy often flows through cafes, bars, and nearby streets, which creates intimacy but leaves little room for large informal gatherings. Neither approach is inferior. They simply produce different emotions. Europe lets football borrow the city, while America frequently builds a temporary city around football. The surprising part is how quickly visitors become attached to this rhythm. Once game day includes shared food, conversations with strangers, music, and several hours without anyone rushing toward the turnstile. The match begins to feel less like an appointment and more like a national holiday that happened to land on the schedule. Even people unfamiliar with the teams can join the atmosphere, because entry requires curiosity rather than a detailed understanding of league standings. That openness may be one reason the fantasy of handing Euro 2028 to America gains such playful support. Supporters are not asking the United States to replace European football culture. They are wondering what might happen if Europe's songs, rivalries, and history were dropped into America's talent for turning every gathering into an event. The combination sounds excessive, but so does putting cheese inside a burger until someone tries it. The media often presents America through conflict, as though the entire country spends every afternoon arguing beneath flashing television graphics. Game day reveals another side. Families sharing food, strangers comparing accents, and rival supporters occupying the same enormous space without forgetting how to enjoy themselves. The scale attracts attention, but the welcome is what stays in the memory. Perhaps that is the real reason leaving becomes difficult. America does not simply invite people to watch the occasion, it gives them room to become part of it. Summer law. Here, a British football supporter can forgive many things, including poor finishing, expensive beer, and a referee who appears to have left his eyesight in the dressing room. What becomes harder to forgive is spending 90 minutes inside a concrete bowl, while the sun slowly cooks every exposed seat like a tray of supermarket sausage rolls. America understands this problem differently because heat is rarely treated as an unavoidable part of the atmosphere. It is treated as an engineering assignment. That difference may sound minor beside stadium capacity or sporting tradition, yet it quietly shapes the entire experience of a summer tournament. European cities were built through centuries in climates where extreme heat was once less common. So many public buildings, homes, and transport systems were never designed around constant mechanical cooling. Residential air conditioning remains unusual in Britain, with estimates generally placing household penetration below 5%. Across the United States, government energy surveys have found air conditioning in close to 90% of homes. The contrast is cultural as much as technical. In Britain, the arrival of a hot week often produces desk fans, open windows, and a national conversation about whether 29 degrees Celsius should legally qualify as weather. American cities respond as though the sun has filed a formal challenge. Doors close, thermostats wake up, ceiling vents begin humming, and indoor life continues at a temperature that suggests July has been politely asked to remain outside. For visiting supporters, this change is more than physical comfort. Heat drains patience, slows the queues, and turns small inconveniences into personal insults. A confusing sign seems twice as confusing when sweat has reached the waistband. A 20-minute wait for food begins to feel like an unauthorized survival experiment. When cooled concourses, indoor hospitality areas, and covered seating offer relief, the crowd remains energetic rather than slowly becoming a collection of damp flags and regrettable clothing choices. Several major American venues have been designed with climate in mind rather than hoping the forecast develops manners. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta uses a retractable roof. AT&T Stadium near Dallas combines a retractable roof with an enclosed environment. Sophie Stadium in Los Angeles sits beneath a vast translucent canopy that shields spectators while allowing the venue to retain an open-air character. These buildings do not defeat summer completely, but they negotiate with it from a much stronger position. Europe also has modern covered stadiums, including the retractable roof arena in Cardiff, and advanced venues across Germany and the Netherlands. The broader difference lies in expectation. In much of America, temperature control is considered part of the basic promise made to the customer. The spectator has bought a ticket to watch football, not to discover whether the human body can become its own portable sauna. That expectation can appear indulgent until someone experiences it repeatedly. A supporter leaves the hotel in cool air, enters a cooled vehicle, walks through a shaded or enclosed concourse, and reaches the seat without feeling as though the match has already gone into extra time. Convenience like that becomes addictive because it does not demand attention. It simply removes discomfort before discomfort becomes the story. This helps explain why the fantasy of moving Euro 2028 to America can sound surprisingly reasonable after a summer visit. The appeal is not that American weather is gentler, because cities such as Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta would never make that claim with a straight face. The appeal is that America refuses to let weather have the final word. European football has always celebrated endurance, from rainy terraces in England to icy nights in Germany. America adds another possibility. Supporters can bring the passion without being physically punished for purchasing a ticket. Once people discover that a tournament can feel intense without feeling like a heat resistance test, the journey home suddenly seems a little less attractive. The screen wins. The referee may control the match, but inside an American stadium, the giant screen behaves like it owns the building. It remembers every angle, repeats every mistake, and quietly informs 80,000 people that somebody in row 12 has just dropped an entire tray of nachos. For European supporters accustomed to watching the field with occasional help from two respectable scoreboards, this level of visual attention can feel like football has entered a control room at NASA. That reaction reveals something deeper than America's fondness for oversized technology. American sports venues are designed around the belief that spectators should never lose track of what is happening, even when the action moves too quickly. The seat is far from the field, or the person beside them chooses the decisive moment to explain a complicated family story. Information is treated as part of hospitality. Replays arrive immediately, player statistics remain visible, directions appear clearly, and entertainment fills the pauses without asking the crowd to stare patiently at an empty patch of grass. SoFi Stadium's double-sided infinity screen stretches roughly 120 yards, covers about 70,000 square feet, and weighs more than 2 million pounds. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, the circular halo board measures around 58 feet high and more than 1,000 feet around. Those numbers sound less like television specifications and more like someone accidentally ordered a commercial building from Best Buy. Yet once tens of thousands of supporters are spread across multiple levels, the extravagance begins to make practical sense. Wembley Stadium offers excellent sightlines and 2 large video screens, while modern grounds in London, Munich, and Amsterdam also use advanced displays effectively. European football, however, traditionally allows the match itself to dominate every second. The culture values uninterrupted concentration, spontaneous chanting, and the feeling that supporters create the atmosphere rather than receiving it from a production team. That restraint has its own charm because Anfield does not need a cartoon lion asking the cop to make noise. America follows another philosophy. Silence is empty real estate, and empty real estate deserves development. During breaks, the screen may show supporters dancing, children waving flags, instant analysis, or a replay detailed enough to start a fresh argument in every section. The building never appears to switch off. It keeps the audience connected, especially newcomers who may not understand every rule, but can follow the story through images, numbers, and reactions. That accessibility matters during an international tournament. A World Cup crowd includes lifelong supporters, families, curious tourists, and people who bought tickets because being near the event felt irresistible. Large, clear displays give all of them a shared language. A close decision no longer belongs only to those seated near the penalty area. The entire stadium receives the same evidence, although naturally everyone reaches a completely different conclusion. This is the addictive part American venues understand so well. The screen does not merely enlarge the game, it makes every seat feel closer to it. Someone in the highest row may appear small enough to require a mailing address rather than a seat number, yet the replay arrives with enough detail to show the goalkeeper blinking. Distance remains real, but technology refuses to let it become emotional distance. Critics may call the presentation excessive, and occasionally they have a point. Football does not need a graphic explosion whenever the ball goes out for a throw-in. Still, the American approach carries a generous instinct beneath all that electricity. Nobody who bought a ticket should feel forgotten by the event. That idea helps explain why European supporters begin joking about moving Euro 2028 across the Atlantic. They are not falling in love with a television hanging from the roof. They are responding to a culture that spends heavily, thinks boldly, and treats even the cheapest seat as part of the main show. Europe offers football in its purest setting. America takes the same 90 minutes, plugs them into the wall, and makes the entire building glow. Beds beat borders. A tournament can survive one dull match, one missed penalty, and even one mascot that looks as though it was approved during a very long committee meeting. What it cannot survive gracefully is tens of thousands of supporters discovering that the nearest affordable bed is 2 train changes, 1 night bus, and a minor spiritual journey away from the stadium. This is where America's hotel culture quietly enters the Euro 2028 conversation and steals the room key. The United States has spent decades building entire cities around visitors who arrive in huge waves, stay briefly, and expect everything to work without requiring local knowledge. Las Vegas has roughly 150,000 hotel rooms across its wider market, while Orlando has well over 100,000 rooms serving theme parks, conventions, and major events. Those cities are unusual even by American standards, yet they reveal a national habit. When crowds are expected, America rarely prepares one spare bedroom and hopes everyone becomes close friends. That habit changes the emotional rhythm of a tournament. Accommodation is not merely somewhere to sleep after the match. It decides whether supporters feel free to stay longer, attend another game, explore the city, or spend the evening enjoying themselves without calculating the final train like an accountant defusing a bomb. When a destination offers large hotel districts, familiar chains, late check-in, extensive parking, and rooms designed for families, the trip becomes easier to extend by one more night, then another. European host cities offer a different kind of pleasure. London, Edinburgh, Dublin, Paris, and Rome place visitors close to history, walkable neighborhoods, and public transport. Their older urban centers carry atmosphere that no purpose-built entertainment district can reproduce. Yet during major events, limited room supply in central areas can push prices upward quickly. Edinburgh's festival season regularly shows how a beautiful, compact city can become extraordinarily expensive when demand arrives all at once. Dublin has also faced persistent concerns over hotel costs and room availability during peak periods. America often answers that pressure with volume. A suburban hotel district may lack the romance of a narrow street beside a medieval square, but it can absorb coaches, families, luggage, and late arrivals without behaving as though every suitcase has personally insulted the building. The lobby is wide, the elevator understands groups, and the breakfast area appears prepared for an entire youth soccer team to arrive wearing matching hoodies. That practicality carries a cultural message visitors quickly notice. American hospitality is designed around the assumption that the guest will ask for more space, more ice, another towel, and perhaps a waffle shaped like Texas before 9 in the morning. The system does not treat those requests as an embarrassing display of need. It treats them as Tuesday. This may be the most addictive difference of all, because comfort removes the pressure to leave. A supporter who can find a room near the stadium, store luggage easily, and return after the match without racing across the city begins to experience the tournament at a slower, richer pace. Breakfast becomes a recap show, the hotel bar becomes an international debating chamber, and the elevator contains 6 nationalities, politely pretending not to remember yesterday's result. America understands that visitors do not fall in love with a host country while checking out under stress. They become attached during the extra hours created by convenience when nobody's watching the clock, and the trip begins to feel temporarily like ordinary life. That is why the playful wish to hand Euro 2028 to the United States carries more meaning than stadium envy. Supporters are reacting to a country built to make staying feel easy. Europe may offer the unforgettable postcard, but America often provides the extra night that allows a people to step inside it. Once the luggage is unpacked, the air conditioning is humming, and tomorrow's match is only a short ride away. Going home starts to feel suspiciously unnecessary. The biggest surprise of this journey was never a stadium, a scoreboard, or a record-breaking crowd. It was discovering that sometimes the place we are warned about tells a completely different story once we experience it ourselves. If Euro 2028 could be hosted anywhere, where would you choose and why? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy exploring culture beyond the headlines, subscribe for more stories that challenge expectations and celebrate unforgettable moments.